Have we entered the final phase of defense cost-sharing talks between South Korea and the United States? The prospects for this deal have looked fairly negative for months, mainly due to the chasm between Seoul and Washington over how much South Korea should be paying for the upkeep of 28,500 American troops on the Korean Peninsula, especially as the US Secretaries of State and Defense recently drew anger by insisting in a newspaper commentary that Seoul can and should be paying more. But there are reasons to think things are coming to a head. Let's take a look. Officials from both sides have hinted at progress in recent negotiations, certainly since US President Donald Trump's reported initial demand that South Korea pay $5 billion, up from around $870 million last year. With more talks expected in the coming days, Seoul's foreign ministry says they have already broadened their mutual understanding and common ground. And pressure is building as their last SMA, or Special Measures Agreement, expired at the end of 2019, and US Forces Korea has been left to function on funds that Ambassador Harry Harris admits are drying up. So the US military in Korea has warned of service delays and furloughs affecting thousands of Korean staff. If that wasn't enough motivation to get this sorted, there are also political considerations. It's a big election year, not just for President Trump, but this April, South Korean polls will open for a parliamentary election that could slow the ratification needed for a new SMA. Calls to reevaluate the US alliance have been growing in the South due to concerning signals from Washington, not just the Trump administration's demands, which sometimes appear to be founded on inaccuracies, like the president himself claiming troop numbers here are higher than they are, but viewing American troops in Korea as a form of foreign aid. Even within the US, there's political opposition to the Trump administration's implication that it doesn't also gain strategic benefits from having troops in Korea. Another way of looking at this, what if a deal's not done? US Forces Korea announced this week that it has told its Korean staff that they'll be placed on unpaid leave from April 1st due to the SMA situation. That's invited criticism that the US is using those workers as pawns in ongoing negotiations. Also, it's possible Trump might move to withdraw some troops from the peninsula, although Washington officials have repeatedly denied that option. Either way, ongoing tensions between these allies could lead North Korea and others to try to exploit the situation for their military and economic gain. Overall, it would create instability at a delicate time in efforts to achieve lasting peace and denuclearization on the Korean Peninsula. But then, is there hope? Reports suggest the two sides are close to a deal and potentially below South Korea's line of 1.5 trillion Korean won, or less than $1.3 billion. Seoul's sweetened the agreement by throwing in weapons purchases, financially supporting the construction of Camp Humphreys, and sending troops to the Strait of Hormuz off Iran. But it's also important to avoid having to go through all this again next year, such as by doing a multi-year deal rather than the single-year system we're in danger of repeating under Trump. After all, SMAs here had been for 5 years, and 1 year just creates more instability from individual staff to the whole alliance itself, which Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for Korea and Japan Mark Napper recently described as sacred. If that's the case, we want to avoid further cases of sacrilege.